So, would you guys like to introduce yourselves for any listeners who might not know who you are?
I am Quentin, one half of Angry Blackmen.
I am Brian. I am the other half.
Amazing. So, when I first started listening to you guys, I heard of like a lot of influence from clipping and Dalek and Death Grips. And Quentin, when we first started talking way about when, you said you're a fan of Death Grips. You guys get these comparisons a lot with your music.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, yeah. But no, definitely in the beginning, and even now, I feel like it happens. But I don't know. I guess it's like people's scope isn't that like huge. So if it sounds just a little bit similar to something, they'll be like, "Oh, that's just Death Grips," or "That's just clipping." I mean, every artist has some type of comparison. When JPEG Mafia was first coming out, that's all everybody was saying was like, "This is Death Grips," and it's like this is not even the same shit.
Definitely. I guess that links to my next question of like, when people compare you to your predecessors, do you guys like aim to separate yourself a lot from them, or do you like kind of wear that stuff in your sleeve?
I feel like well, me personally, I kind of just wear it on my sleeve. At first, I tried to like set myself different from everyone else, but I've learned over time that like people are just gonna come to you and just say, "Hey, you look like MC right off of Death Grips whenever I wear my hair a certain way and my beard a certain way," and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not taking any offense to it. If that's if that's how y'all feel, I mean, as long as y'all not calling me ugly or saying the music is whack, because I put 110 and 150 into everything that I do, and so does Q. So like I can say overall that long winded explanation, we definitely just what me personally, I wear it on my sleeve proudly. I don't care. I love it.
That's a good answer. I have to agree with Brian. I think it's like it's one of those things where you appreciate what came before and you just add
Hmm.
on to it. So it's like
Yeah.
while we do like some of these things, it's just it's like it's very surface level when people say it, but when they dig even more, they're like, "Oh, these guys are actually not like them," but I can see the influence. So I think
Facts.
that's where that it's like every artist has that, it's the influence, but then they do their own thing. So it's respecting the past and just moving on from that.
Do you think that the fact that you guys are a duo affects the way that you work with other musicians? Because there's not necessarily like a necessity to work with anyone else because like together you can like produce and rap and stuff. So there's not like a need to find other people. Do you think that affects the way you work with other people?
Hmm, that's a good ass question. I don't think anybody's ever asked that.
Does
Hmm.
you saying does it affect how just us knowing how to do things? Does that affect us knowing? Does that affect us working and collabing with other people? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Because
Uh,
there's yeah.
in a
I
way,
feel like
it
it
does.
does.
Yeah, I was gonna say in a way it does because I just got done wrapping up a project where I was performing at the Wintrust Arena and I was using some kids from my program that I run, and basically me just knowing how to produce, knowing how to engineer, knowing like the fine science behind it and stuff like that. Because I'm a nerd and I'm a geek for it. I sit here and read books and watch videos all day, and I partially went to school for it, and I just want to get my hands on it just as much as the engineer would. So yeah, in a way it does, but it's not toxic. I will allow as much as the next person would. I'm not gonna step on nobody's toes. I'm not gonna overpower anybody. I'm gonna just tell you what I know, and if you feel comfortable, whatever you feel like doing, that's what you feel like doing.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good ass answer. And now to add on to that, I feel like the downside about that is that it's me and Brian, so it's
Hmm.
already two entities. You know what I'm saying? So if we add another person, sometimes I will like have to leave a track, or it's easy to get muffled and busy on a track, and you just kind of want to have a good balance, I would say. You know what I'm saying? So like we haven't
Hmm.
done a lot of collabs to this point, but the ones we do have, sometimes I'm not even on the track, or sometimes Brian is not even on the track. You know what I'm saying? We'll have inputs from beyond the track.
I previously like mentioned influences and the genre of hip hop obviously has a lot of history of sampling, but especially like the experimental areas of hip hop has like a history of sampling kind of obscure sounds. do you think about what you're sampling before you pick it, or do you just do whatever sounds nice at the time?
I think for us, if it sounds like really good and it sounds like it fits us, would you say we're pretty much on board for it, Brian? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, putting on my producer hat, I go with what sounds nice. With going into the record store and like just coming from my dad, with him being like such a record junkie, he has so many records. I've shown Q. I would just sit there and just go through record after record. And even if I sample, if I'm on a vinyl and I'm listening to like a comedy from Red Fox or Eddie Murphy, if I hear a certain joke that he may say or a certain line, this just feels good and resonates to me, then I'm going to put that in the track, no matter what. That's just me.
Nice. I heard of a lot of like news reports and some SpongeBob samples in headshots. Like, were these sounds planned prior, or like, and why SpongeBob?
Yeah, that was Gary, because Gary was a producer on Headshots, or he was the main producer. He did most of the production. That was like his tag. That was his tag. And I'm like a big film guy, so like that was that was from Night of the Living Dead. Reporter.
And I'm gonna add into that is when we working on tracks, we get so locked in to the project itself, to where we focusing on every single word of what we say and how we say it, whether we going up pitch, down pitch. We using formats to like just get all the levels correct. Like we're going crazy on this stuff. And just like when Gary was sending his beats in, okay, Gary, I'm like, that just resonated with me because, you know, I grew up watching SpongeBob early on in childhood. So I'm like, yeah, this feels good with me. And it's going to feel good with other people too, because they grew up the same way I did.
Facts, yeah. So I just think at the end of the day, it's like a big collaboration. Like some producers already have their tags and samples, and then we'll add on what we have, you know.
For sure, facts.
There's a few like unsettling sounding samples throughout your work. Is this meant to be like unsettling because it's like an expression of unsettling things you talk about in your songs, or is it meant to is it there to unsettle the audience at points?
Go in detail. You talk about like sounds or like the
like sounds,
sounds. Okay. It really depends. Like Gary was more of a laid back guy with his production, so I wouldn't say laid back, but it was more straightforward. And then with Derek, who did primarily the production on Reality, I would say it was more unsettling. So I think there's efforts to go in a direction, but I don't think it's, you know, like super premeditated. It's just a vibe at the time.
Yeah, we can't, you know, I want to name this artist West Side Gun. He always says like, my thoughts are premeditated what I want to do. It will take me about 3 to 6 weeks in the studio to make my project. That's how he talks. I'll be like, man, I can have something premeditated in my mind on what I want to do, but as soon as I step into the lab, we may get a different type of feel, or we just accidentally hear a noise. It's over with. It's going to go in that direction. Like we just keep going where we want to go. You know what I'm saying? So.
Because overall, I would say we have like a direction of where we want to go with certain things, but some of the producers that we work with, they also have like it's just a big collaboration, you know, effort, you know, sort of like I was reading this interview with Madlib and Doom, and Madlib would just be Doom would kind of like briefly tell him the direction, and Madlib would just go off that, and then it would just be like this hip hop baby.
Yeah, that's really interesting that like you guys have like a thought of what you want, but then you'll just go into it and you'll just end up with something different or like a completely different direction with the same vibe.
I was just going to add in, and that's another thing too. Like it's like a train. We have to all make sure that we're on board. Derek, Q, me, like if we're all on board with the same sound, the same word, one band, one sound.
Nice. Onto sort of a different subject then. So what are your thoughts on the sort of narrative of your music translating into nations outside of America that have different issues to the ones that you guys experience and talk about in your songs?
That's a really good question. I you know, That was actually good. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like I
I
like
want to,
that you're asking things that people haven't really
for real,
asked
man. I
before.
appreciate you, G.
But go
Like,
ahead, bro.
I was just gonna say, honestly, I'm still learning. Like, I'm, I went from writing about my environment to like now trying to like resonate with people from all across the world. So, if anything, I'm turning myself into a vessel to go fill myself up with like knowledge of like just different places. That's why I haven't really spent too much time writing. I've just been growing with knowledge and trying to like just learn the world from where I'm at. Or if I can go in the street and just meet somebody that was from somewhere else, I gather that information and just, you know, I take it back with me and write it, because that's what I'm trying to bring to this album is I want everybody to have some form of relation from you all the way to somebody in Cape Town. Like I need people to resonate.
Big facts. But you know, I don't think we necessarily plan how other people are gonna translate it to add on to like the
Right.
last part that you said. We just do what we do, and if it, you know, whatever how it comes out, it's up to interpretation at that point, wherever somebody lives at, and it just might connect with them, you know, despite you know our you know origins of how we wanted you know the message to go. You never really. It's like when somebody makes a movie, it's up to interpretation at that point.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you can never know how someone else is gonna receive what you take. It's like you put it out there
Yeah.
and just hope that they receive it in a good way, maybe not the way that you've created it.
You ever see They Live by John Carpenter?
I haven't. I haven't.
Okay, I suggest you check it out. It's a really great movie. It's a movie about like this guy finds these glasses and he can see like this alien race behind like humans. You know what I'm saying? And like when the movie came out, it was a certain like section of people that thought the movie was about like Jewish corruption. And John Carpenter was like, no, this is about like yuppies in the '80s, bro. Like this is about capitalism. So it's always that. You know what I'm saying? Like people will take it how it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, you see that a lot with films, especially like they have a vision of one thing, or they won't even have a metaphor in mind. It'll be like a subconscious thing that will then come through, and then people will say, "Oh, this means this means that," and they'll be like, "Does it? I didn't mean it to be that, but I guess it does."
Yeah. Sometimes work to the benefit. You'd be like, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, yeah.
Big fact.
On the sort of like your audience, or you guys not necessarily think about your audience can receive it, do you guys ever think about like what your audience's demographic is when you're writing your music, or do you just kind of make music because you're making music? They're not necessarily, you're not thinking about who's receiving it at the
My
time.
friend, my friend. That is where a songwriter is born. Where you're thinking about the demographic, you're thinking about the age range of who's going to reach. You put all of that in the outline, and then that's when you start to convey the words across the track, because then you know where it's reaching, you know how it's going to reach, and what the results are going to be.
That's facts. I would to add on to that, I would say at first we were just kind of making shit and it was like whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whoever gets to it, it gets to it. But now I'm very aware of like the audience who like listens to it, and it's definitely like young white kids and more specifically young white males. So I'm very self like conscious of like when I think about that, you know, I think about like how are they gonna receive this? You know what I'm saying? Because now I know like the demographic. It's like when you first start off with something, you don't know what you're doing. You're just putting it out, and then you kind of know what you're doing, and it's like, oh, this is the you know the audience is getting, which is I didn't think you know no I didn't know that at first. I didn't know we were just making shit. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't know
Seriously.
where it was gonna go, and now we kind of know, and it's like okay, well this is the fan base. Not that I dislike that, but this is where it's at. You know what I'm saying? And you just got to roll with the punches.
Piggybacking off of that, like it went from like fun writing. Well, it's still fun. It's still fun. Don't get me wrong. So that's the wrong word to use. But it went from like just writing to like analytical writing. Like you, like I said, you have on your mind those faces that came up to you at shows and just express how they love the music. And it's like you keep those same people in mind as you're writing your new project, as to, you know, you will get I feel like there is a such thing as a for sure success thing if you know what you're doing. That's why I said like it'll be a songwriter is being born when you know your demographic, you know how to approach each track. That's how.
Yeah, but you don't want to alienate nobody. That's what I'm saying. It's like, although certain people like your shit, you know, it's for everybody. It's just like these people just happen to like it. And like, I'm totally fine with that. I remember there was this artist named No Name. I don't know if you're familiar with the Chicago scene. Her name is No Name. She was formerly No Name Gypsy. She came up with Chance the Rapper in that era. And she had like a lot of white fans and she had a problem with it. And I understand her problem with having a lot of white fans, but you can't be mad at, you know, this is the people that's listening to the music. And you know, she was comparing herself to like a Kodak Black or like a G Herbo, and how their audiences are primarily Black. But it's like, that's just what, you know, excuse my language, but that's just what I just want to hear. Nobody want to, you know, it is what it is at this point. Like, you know, I understand No Name's great, but certain people like certain things. And just, like I said, you got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, and then on top of that, like if you just listen to the type of music she makes versus G Herbo, you can tell a significant difference of hood music versus like scholar music. She makes
and
music
it's not
that's
even like,
Look,
I wouldn't even say it's like I wouldn't even say it's like for hood people, or like I wouldn't even divide it like that. It's just that's the demographic. It appeals, you know what I'm saying? Because look, Kendrick makes like quote unquote, you know, he's a mixture, you know, hood, if you want to quote unquote hood it or scholar or whatever, he still got like a lot of Black fans stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Kendrick is a chameleon. Okay. Like I love that dude. Like he's a fine line of what's the word that you always use, dude? You always say it.
What's up? Accessible?
Yes, he's like a fine line of accessible, and just he knows how to gear it off to that weird side a little bit, but bring it right back. It's amazing.
It's interesting. This question is great because I'm always thinking about this shit. Like it's like Drake. Like Drake makes music for his audience. You know what I'm saying? And he there's no shame in his game. Like he knows that you're not gonna ever see Drake at this point trying to make a political anthem. You know, it's not gonna happen.
I may puke if he do that. I ain't gonna cap to you.
Oh, that's funny. In 2019 about her audience, because she quit rapping. She now does a book club.
Yeah. I'll say you're familiar with it. Okay, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. I've been listening to rap music most of my life. I know most people nowadays. Yeah.
When you ask that question, I'm like, dude, because that's something. Because I'm a No Name fan, and like instantly I thought of her. I was like, man, you know, it's always a conversation. Denzel Curry had this conversation a couple weeks ago on Twitter. You know, it's a conversation. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting conversation. Well, you're literally called Angry Blackmen, so you've described like, and then you end up having white male audiences as a result who aren't you, like they're the like a different race, and yeah, that seems to be your main demographic. But I guess when you're making music and sort of in America and like the majority of the English speaking world are white, so you kind of have to expect to an extent that a big proportion of your community are going to be white. But it's interesting that you've acknowledged that the majority in your thing are, despite your name and your subject matter.
And the crazy part is, like I said a while ago, I didn't expect it, or it's like now I didn't expect it, or how do I word this? It was never in my mind. You know what I'm saying? It was never something that crossed my mind when we first started. You know, it just happened, and I just rolled with the punches. I wasn't gonna. It is what it is at this point, because like you said, the majority of hip hop listeners in general, just off population wise, are gonna be white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you got to be okay with that. It's just like there are people. I don't even like getting into like a real big race thing, because we're all people with two arms, two legs, one head. Like I can't. Who am I to sit here and say you're not going to resonate with my music because you ain't come from where I come from? I don't know where you came from.
I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, like there's a ghetto in every city, state, country. Like
your topics translating to different countries. Like from a British perspective, the majority of Britain is white, and most British people who listen to it, probably your music probably will be right. A majority of like our like poorer, richer, middle class populations they're all like there's gonna be different people from different demographics that are going to be listening to it. So you can't like assume, I guess, when you're making music just based off how people look.
Yeah, I always thought that was dumb. I always thought the whole like nobody can relate because they're that. like I said, we all go through shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
different perspectives. So that's how I
Well,
feel about it. I know it's controversial, but
Here's a small little side story, just a few seconds. I was in Popeyes getting rung up by a white guy, and he was just explaining. I'm just saying, I'm just giving it transparent. He was white. He was just explaining to me, man, I grew up in an all-black family household. Now, if I never sat there and talked with this dude, I wouldn't have known that. I would have just thought, oh, he's a white guy from some ugly neighborhood, whatever. But that's why I said, two hands, two legs. We don't know where people come from. We're
that's
all
facts,
on this
man.
one planet together.
yeah.
Nigga said Popeyes. That's what took me. That's what took me for a loop. Because I don't know if they even have a Popeyes in the UK.
Nah, we only just got Taco
Yeah.
Bell.
Taco Bell.
That's what I'm saying. It should be cultural. It should really do be cultural. I think race plays an element of perspectives, but it'd be cultural at the same time. Because like if you're a poor black person, you're a poor white person, you're gonna have way more in common than a rich black person and a poor black person. That's just the facts. That's just the facts. In my opinion. I mean, people have their thoughts and stuff. I just think class and classism has a big effect on how people view things.
Facts.
I mean, we could go on a tangent about this for ages, but like saying that, I instantly think of, you guys seen that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode where Will and Carlton get arrested and Carlton's like adamant because like the officer's not doing it based off their race, and just Uncle Phil and Will Smith know for a fact what it's about, and it's just like one of them grew up rich and the others didn't, and it's just like you just know, like
his perspective is warped. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And Will knows that because he comes from a low end, so he's trying to like humble Carlton the whole season.
I love that. Man. That's a good episode.
All right, let's move into a slightly different topic. You guys have released music on cassette and vinyl, and you did the auction for cassette, which a while back. Like, how come you've released on like old forms of like music media rather than just posting on streaming?
I feel like there's like an audience for that. It's very niche now. It's like very niche and elitist. I don't want to use that word, but it kind of is. You know what I'm saying? Because like only like hip hop hipsters really get the cassettes and the vinyls. Like nobody, like no random nigga is just gonna be like, let me get a fucking cassette and the vinyl. You know, so they go stream that shit. Not even like a random nigga, but random people. Like the mainstream audiences really isn't buying physical media like that, streaming. But it's a very niche thing, and especially in the genre we do. So I felt like it made sense.
If you go to a lot of record stores over here in the UK, most of the artists will be like kind of more. You have like this weird. You'll get like a little pump vinyl, and then the rest of it will be like JPEG Mafia.
Exactly. Yep. Makes sense.
Wait, did you say a punk or little pump?
Little pump.
Whoa! I'll be walking in Target and Walmart and always see Kendrick vinyls like down to last two. And it's
same
still
with
damn.
Childish Gambino. We got a couple in Walmart.
Yeah, and it's always down to last two, like the Damn and that new project that he released not too long ago.
I see Good Kid, Mad City all the time though.
Yeah.
And to Pimp a Butterfly. I'm like, I ain't never not seen. I don't have the vinyl, but I know I can get it whatever.
Bro, that is why he ain't made no music. He's still eating. Nobody realized that he ain't got to do this.
Facts. I think he needs some time to himself too. That whole album he just dropped was basically saying, like, hop off my nuts, I'm a human. Like that's that whole album. Like, hop off my dick, I'm not a savior, I'm just a human.
Thank you.
So what's the process of getting something printed on vinyl or cassette and stuff? Because I don't imagine there's many like cassette printing stores around anymore. Like, how do you guys go about that, especially as like smaller artists? Especially, I think when you released the cassette, were you guys independent?
No, that was actually through. Well, yeah, not like independent for ourselves, but like independent with the label. Yeah.
So what's that sort of process like? Like, how do you find places to do that sort of thing?
So the label Death Bomb had approached us about doing cassettes. Death Bomb Mark is a Los Angeles independent label who's worked with in the past with Death Grips, JPEG, clipping, et cetera, et cetera. They approached us about doing a cassette after we were kind of working together, like based off streaming shit. And we were like, at first I was like, nah, because I didn't come up in the cassette era. And I talked to Brian, and Brian I don't remember at the time what you thought about it, bro, but I think you kind of were like, you were like lukewarm to it. But then
What, the
somebody kept
cassettes?
asking. Yeah, we were kind of like, because I didn't grow up with cassettes like that. There
Bro,
was some I used to see around.
that's because, bro, like we come from a cassette era. I'm like, bro, we is in an era where computers don't even have CD-ROMs to them anymore. Like it's just straight USB. So I'm like, who's gonna want to buy this? I'm scared. But then people actually was just buying it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess they can buy it as a collector's souvenir or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I seen
Vinyls is
the
different.
audience. I saw the audience in that shit because it was like I said, we were first like, nah, and then as soon as we made them, people were actually getting them. They're like, okay, I get it. You know what I'm saying? There's a market for it. So,
Still,
you know, it's like, but I always wanted vinyl. That's my biggest thing. I was like, oh, I want that vinyl. And now we're finally making them. It's like, yeah.
I took it as an indication. I bought my ex a vinyl player just because she asked for one. She was interested. And I'm like, yo, if she's still asking for one and she's this age, I know vinyls will still do well in today's society. But I ain't never did nothing with no cassette.
Yeah. So I had to learn about that. I think I had to learn that there was an audience because at first I was like,
Dalek, I guess, is the next one. I saw you guys post about going on tour with Dalek.
oh, yeah.
How did that come about? How does that sort of thing happen?
This story has so many fucking layers. So I don't even think I told Brian the whole fucking story. Yo, you kind of got the gist at this point. So dialect. It was at a point last year where we needed a booking agent. I just felt like shows are. Me personally, I felt like 2022 or 2021 we're in right now, right? Now we're in 2022. Where the fuck am I at? So at the end of 2021, I felt like COVID was gonna, ease up a little the following year. So I had set for like 2 or 3 weeks straight looking for a booking agent, right? Email, email after email after email. A lot of no's, a lot of can't even say there's a lot of yeses. There's a lot of, oh, I'll check it out eventually. But it was like a lot of no's. And then a couple of people had got back. And one just happened to be Dialect's booking manager. And so we worked with him for a little bit. And that's pretty much how that happened because he was already Dialect's booking agent. It just made sense, you know what I'm saying? Originally, the tour was a lot bigger with the dates, but most of the Dialect's audiences were overseas. So he kind of cut the US one to a couple dates and then focused more on his overseas one. So that's how that happened. It was just like kind of a chance thing, but it was a little effort thrown into there. But
to be honest, that's all the questions I have, and we've talked for a while now.
Really?
Yeah, it's been about 40 minutes worth of talking.
Dang, dude.
shit.
This make me want to travel the world and come talk to you even more.
We can do another interview at another time if you guys are interested.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm really interested in you, G. You got it, bro. Like you
These are
got
good
it.
questions. These are good questions.
I'm happy you like my questions. So do you guys want to like shout some of your
Yeah. Social media, Angry Blackmen everywhere. At Angry Blackmen, Twitter, Instagram.
Angry Blackman takeover. You already know how it's coming. No. Angry Black BMO, come go follow me. Go follow Angry Black Alchemist, you know what I'm saying? We do this for the hood, we do this for the classes, we do this for the world.